Hello, Charles County. Welcome to another episode of Cracking the Code, a chance for us to unpack all things related to zoning and regulations here in Charles County, Maryland. I'm Doria Fleischer with the Media Division, and joining me, as always, is our spectacular co-host, Liz Theobalds from the County Attorney's Office.
Thank you very much, and thanks for having me again.
Of course, we couldn't do it without you, Liz. And Jarrington Bazemore, who is our Inspection Supervisor with Planning and Growth Management, is joining us today. Thanks for being here, Jarrington.
Thank you for inviting me.
And Jarrington, I was just bragging before we hit record that when you come to our Citizens Academy program, you get the rave reviews that everybody loves when you. So I'm thrilled that this episode has your expertise and personality as well.
Appreciate that.
All right, Liz, should we go easy on him or should we be hard on him?
Uh-oh.
We can just jump into it. He can handle it.
He can handle it. All right. And that's actually the thing, right, Jarrington? That your job is all about being able to communicate with people,
Absolutely.
interact with residents, and take what could be a volatile situation and keep it calm.
It.
Yeah.
Yes.
And your background, you've been with Charles County government, you said, for
8 years as of January.
Excellent.
2025.
Thank you for being here with us, and also a veteran.
Yes.
Thank you for your service.
I appreciate it.
And thank you for bringing that expertise. I think that's part of what makes you such an asset to us, is I watch how you interact with people and diffuse and de-escalate, and it's such a skill.
I appreciate that.
All right, so Liz, I'm going to start with you now that I'm done bragging on our wonderful Jarrington. Liz, a lot of the episodes we've done with Cracking the Code have talked about building safety, make sure your deck doesn't just collapse. Make sure if you own a business that somebody who uses a wheelchair could get in your door safely, and that, everybody's got places to park and places to move. But this episode's a little bit different because we're talking about today nuisance abatement and public nuisances. And we're going to get into the definitions of that. But in essence, making sure people's properties stay clean?
Yes. One of the things that we really love about Charles County, and is something that really has attracted so many people to Charles County, is how beautiful it is. It's partially a rural setting. Mm-hmm. It also has a more urban feel when you get into Waldorf. And by the time it is that you really look at what it is that nuisance tries to do, and we'll get more into that, we're trying to maintain a level of beautification around the county just generally. So therefore, as we look at, like you said, half of it's your property values. It's probably the most valuable asset that most people have.
Right.
And just because you keep your house beautiful doesn't necessarily mean that your neighbor has the very same sense of order, beauty. And yes, we do have HOAs, which tend to enforce many things, but there are a lot of areas outside of HOAs where people still need to be cognizant and reminded that, yes, we do want to make sure that what it is that we have here in Charles County is maintained as a beautiful county. So that is a lot of where it is that we try to go with
why that code exists,
yes,
is to keep that property value. And I appreciate hearing that, when we think about Charles County, and like you said, there's the rural areas, but we also think about how many HOAs we have, but that there's so many residents who also don't live in those HOAs. So Jarrington, your job ties into kind of protecting every resident and every property, regardless of whether you're part of a neighborhood or not. Is that accurate?
Absolutely.
Excellent. All right. So Jarrington, I want to know if you can start, please, and I hate to put you on the spot right away, but we throw around the word public nuisance and nuisance abatement. Can you talk to us a little bit about that vocabulary and what that means?
Yes, absolutely. So a public nuisance is how we interpret our code.
Okay.
And it's on residential properties as far as property maintenance is concerned. However, a nuisance, we get a lot of calls in. People will say loud music is a nuisance. The dogs barking is a nuisance. Right. And that's not what our code is for public health. It's Chapter 85, just straight nuisance, residential property maintenance, your upkeep, and so much.
Excellent. So we're talking less about, and I think we'll have future Cracking the Code episodes on some of the things you talked about, like the dog barking, the loud music. I know we've got a good one coming up for spring, summer months about events and having big parties in your yard. But Jarrington, for today, so when we talk about public nuisance, we're talking about the stuff. Yeah?
The stuff.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about the stuff, whether it's the natural stuff or the unnatural stuff.
So the unnatural stuff is the main issue when we're talking about property maintenance, residential property maintenance. People tend to leave their items, man-made items, tools, junk and debris, trash and debris, overgrown shrubbery and bushes. That's the natural. Just leave it scattered about in their yard. And our code prohibits that. And it will explain to you that you need to store them appropriately. Your unnatural items.
Okay.
As far as your natural items, like your grass, your weeds, the overgrown shrubbery and bushes, you have to keep them at a minimum height before it becomes a violation. That minimum height typically is a foot.
Okay.
Anything above a foot, can be observed in violation. We would like to establish communication with you first to try to educate you about our process. And then, if need be, we will follow up with a report, code case, and communication with you by documentation.
Okay. And we're going to get into the steps of that in a little bit. Am I correct? And I'm picturing when you do this with Citizens Academy where you talk about I love it when in class you show the different pictures and you say, is this a nuisance? Is this a nuisance? And people have to kind of identify. Buildings can also, right? Parts of the building. So like broken windows, if something's siding is hanging, that can also be part of.
That's definitely part of property maintenance. It falls typically under the International Property Maintenance Code that has been adopted, and the nuisance has been granted Chapter 3 of the IPMC, which incorporates buildings, houses, dwellings, trailers, all these other types of structures, accessory structures you have on your property. So
Okay.
yes.
So I'm laughing that I wonder if you're, are you citing the code in your sleep at night where you're like dreaming in code?
Well, I can honestly tell you, I think my wife gets tired of me when I drive by and she's like, what you doing? You looking at something? How'd you know?
Right. I was just writing him a violation in my mind.
In my mind, I was like, I'm coming back to that on Monday.
I would assume your brain, is trained after all these years to see everything. So,
Right.
So you see it all the time.
Right.
I assume that also people see it, right? That this is, we talk about not in my backyard and the nosy neighbor and the I want my neighbor to do this. And is that how you get a lot of notifications?
We get a lot of notifications via social media nowadays.
Okay.
It used not to be that way.
That's our new
But you
tool.
do have a site where you can actually make complaints to the county.
Oh, absolutely. We do have a site for that, which is the Charles County website.
We'll put all of those in the show notes so people can find it.
Absolutely. You can call us.
Okay.
You can come in person.
Interesting that one of the things we talk about in Citizens Academy is we see people putting things like we've got these groups that have big followers and they're getting, and we so appreciate those local influencers,
Right.
but also if it doesn't filter to us, we can't do anything about it. So making sure that, not just, I often say in Citizens Academy, please don't just post it on Nextdoor, call the right person. Please don't just put this on Facebook, call the right person, because we want these tools to be out there so people can do more than just vent, but actually problem solve.
And actually have some action taken.
And have action taken.
I think that's really important. And I just wanted to harken back to one of the earlier episodes where we talk about how it is that the county ends up investigating things. And a lot of times it is based on people driving by. Hey, wait a second, my property is not going to be valued as well because somebody's house is falling in. Their grass is overgrown. There might only be gutters hanging.
Absolutely.
They keep leaving their trash bins on the road.
Right.
Things like that. Those are the things it is that really drive how it is that we do things. And I wanted to make sure I put that in there because the county isn't just the big bad county.
No, we're not.
We're trying to go ahead and fulfill many of the missions that are important to us, like a beautiful community.
Absolutely.
And all of these are written into the code. So this is not just somebody walking past and saying, I don't like the color of that, or I think your grass might be too long. I mean, when I hear you quoting the code, Jarrington, it is very specific, right? That somebody somewhere outside of Charles County created these standards. And what Charles County has said is we will adopt these standards and use them. Is that an accurate statement?
Well, the code itself, it was created by employees and citizens.
And adopted by our
adopted
county
by our-
legislature.
Right.
But you
And then
keep
we do
referring to
use
the
International Property Maintenance Code. Yes, we did adopt that.
These are standards beyond.
Standards that's internationally. So
Right.
it could be in Japan, it's going to be in Europe, it's going to be here. They internationally follow
It's
those
not
codes.
just arbitrarily that a certain group of people here say, we don't like this for our county. It's something that is an international,
It's international.
standard.
Yes, ma'am.
That makes sense. And I appreciate knowing that kind of it's a local focus, but there is a reason behind it, some standardization behind it. Okay, so Jarrington, if somebody, let's kind of just work through a case study-ish, and then we'll talk about some of the nuances.
Okay.
If somebody called and made a report and said the property next to mine or this property on this road, I think is in violation, it's a public nuisance.
Right.
What would happen once that report is made?
So once the report is received, we will schedule a inspection. we would communicate with the complainant if they did not leave themselves anonymous.
Okay.
And gave us some contact information, letting them know that we have received their complaint and an investigation will be conducted.
Okay.
From there in the back office, we had to do our research, see what we're looking at, what locations, and look at the maps. And then we had to look at the descriptions of what the complaint was. Mm-hmm. Then we had to see what's the area like. Is it going to be a safe place for us to go? Is it one way in, one way out? Mm-hmm. So we do our investigations in the back office, create the inspection, and normally between 2 or 3 days after receipt, an inspector has gone out and conducted an investigation.
Okay. And then after that, if there isn't a violation, that's easy, that's great. You can say
that's the easiest
That's
part.
the easiest one. Oops,
we take
not
pictures,
a problem.
we verify that we didn't see anything, and then we close the case as unfounded.
Okay. If there was a violation observed, what would be the next step?
Then we would escalate it by sending our information digitally back to the back office. Documentation, what is called a Nuisance Abatement Board hearing notice is generated. And it's mailed both first class and certified USPS to the property owner that we have identified.
Okay.
We even go and post the property itself so that we've tried every way we can to establish communication.
So if I'm not checking my mail or that's not an address, I would see it posted.
It's on your door
Okay.
or somewhere in a conspicuous location on the property.
Okay.
And then from there, that illustrates exactly what you have been found and observed a violation of. That there is a scheduled administrative hearing coming up, which is always 30 days after your notification.
Okay.
And this is what you can do to call back, contact us, let us know if you have completed or abated the violation before the hearing, or if you want to speak at the hearing.
Okay.
Because you have to register to speak on your behalf about exactly what's the conditions of that property to the board members.
So people have all sorts of choices within this 30 days. It could be I'm just going to show up at the hearing. It could be I'm going to call you before and let you know it's fixed. It could be I want to speak on my own behalf. Like the property owner has a lot of choices of how to proceed.
Absolutely,
okay.
absolutely.
And I think I want to emphasize here, they do have a lot of choice as to how to proceed. From the time it is that the violation is identified and then they receive perhaps a notice, I think they're encouraged to reach out to our inspections team to say, hey, what's the nature of this complaint? Nuisance abatement does cover things such as accumulations of scrap and paper and junk and things it is that would otherwise make your yard unsightly. And that would give the inspector, and hopefully Jarrington, an opportunity to say, this is what it is that's been complained of, this is what it is that we'd like to see you working on, so that therefore maybe we can go ahead and close this, and it doesn't need to get to a hearing.
Absolutely.
Excellent. So if everything can be resolved before the hearing, that's an option as well.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's what I see you smiling. That is what we want as much as possible. Is that accurate? Okay.
Absolutely.
And our nuisance abatement board, and that so we've now gone from it is a public nuisance if it's in your yard, and now the nuisance abatement is the abatement part is get rid of. We need to eliminate.
Get rid of, eliminate what is the
Fix.
violations. Yes.
That board is made up of residents.
Residents that have been appointed by the commissioners.
Gotcha. So you are really, I'm hesitant to even use the J word of jury, but it is a jury of your peers. It's a board of your peers.
And
It's a board of your
they all live here in Charles County, and they all have an interest in, it's that common interest, and I'm going to harken back to what my colleague Ms. Dew said. This is our investment, the biggest investment that we have.
Right.
And these people are also homeowners, residents in the community, and also want to make sure it is that we bring somebody else into compliance to protect that.
And Tara Dews is our amazing county attorney who handles.
Yes.
I shouldn't say handles. She is the point contact in the county attorney's office for nuisance
counsel
abatement.
to the nuisance abatement board.
Counsel to the nuisance abatement board. That sounds
Yes.
much better than point contact. I like
There we
that. I like that. Okay, so nuisance abatement board we talked about. Let's say it makes it to the hearing, that either the person doesn't know what to do or isn't able to, and they say, I want to come to the hearing. What happens then?
Then they have the opportunity to speak, 30 minutes to speak. The inspector will speak first about the conditions, what they observed on the initial inspection, and then the compliance inspection that was scheduled before the hearing. Then the speaker, or the property owner, has 3 minutes to speak on the same about their property.
Okay.
From there, the board members will make a decision whether to render or issue a decision in order, giving them an additional 14 days to abate the violation.
Okay.
Or because they have registered to speak, they have requested an extension because they know they've been working on it, but they still need
just need more
extra
time.
time.
Okay.
Right. So, and I've typically the board members, when people do speak up or call in, they will give them whatever they're asking for.
Right.
You just have to defend yourself. You know?
You have to be able to kind of explain and show progress.
Explain your show, yes. Absolutely.
Well, I'm picturing even if it's, even something as simple as if the weather's been terrible in the 30 days.
Absolutely.
I need more time because I can't get the dumpster onto my property to clean this up. So could I wait till it dries out? So it sounds like the desire is let's get this fixed with the property owner.
With the property owner.
Gotcha.
Just like this earlier with the snowstorms and the stuff we had.
Right.
We were still out there.
Yeah.
But we were still notifying people, but we would work with them, give them time to get it done.
Right. And Liz, I keep hearing this throughout all of these, the scary words like regulations and codes and everything else, but I have not heard any one of our county staff say anything about like, I can't wait to get someone in trouble. It really does sound like as much as possible this is we want to work with you.
Yes,
yeah, let's
absolutely.
fix this. This is a recognized problem. Let's fix it.
I appreciate your underscoring that, and that should be the theme. Please reach out. We have information. We can help you avoid pitfalls. We can help you resolve things, and these are things it is that we can do cooperatively.
Beautiful. Jarrington, one of the other things that I think I've heard you mention before is the idea that if the property owner either didn't show up or wasn't able, that the county could at some point go in and do some of the abatement without
all of the abatement.
Okay, so tell me about what that process would look like.
So if we're not able to make contact with the property owner, or the property owner just refuses to abate the violations, communicate with us and so forth, the order is issued at the hearing by the board members.
Okay.
They are given 14 days additionally to try to abate the violations before we will come back out again and cite them for the inspection fee, which is owed after the issuance of the decision order if the violations have not been abated. From there, we will initiate what we call a walkthrough of properties that have been issued decision and orders with vetted vendors through the county who are interested in playing our submission of bids game and see who submits the lowest bid to take the job.
So in essence, we're saying this has to happen.
Yes.
These are vendors that we know follow the right rules and meet all of our procurement requirements. And we will go ahead and initiate getting these issues abated, whether it's removing the trash, repairs,
cut the grass, fix
whatever.
the windows, board up the windows, and fix the hole in the roof. It doesn't matter what it does. About 20 different violations on our code or more
that could be fixed.
That could be fixed.
Okay,
by
and
the
then
county.
what happens with that? With the cost of that, how is that handled?
So the cost is going to ultimately be handled by the property owner at some point or time.
Okay.
We assess the penalty fines. Then whoever wins the bid, their invoice is assessed, and all that is to the property owner. They're given a bill, they're given time to pay it or not pay it. And if they fail to do it within the time frame, then all the fines and invoices fees will go onto their tax bill. So,
it's called clean and lean authority. That's something that is authorized by the code, so that therefore, even if we have somebody who is not cooperative, we can still go ahead and get it done.
Right.
It's not the most desirable thing to do because we really want to work with people, but if we really have something that's really just off the charts, egregious, and needs to be fixed, then in which case that's what it is that we'll do, and it will be assessed to the property, and it will need to be paid along with the property taxes.
Absolutely.
That makes sense. Okay. Definitely not a best case scenario, but I do think I think what I appreciate about all of these codes is that none of this is, like you said the word arbitrary before, none of it's arbitrary and none of it's let's figure it out as we go. We have these processes in place. And to me, when I think about why I appreciate that, it's equity. It's not, well, Jarrington seems like a nice guy, so we're going to let him do this in 60 days. But Liz, she's not my favorite. She better get it done in 15. Like all of these are very consistent and equitable practices to, I think, provide safety for the property owner.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, Jarrington, I'm going to put in the show notes all of the ways people can contact you if they have questions, if they have concerns.
Okay.
But something that I know you have talked about before and that I appreciate, and Liz, that we've heard in other episodes, first step is talk to your neighbor, yes, before calling?
Talk to your neighbor. Be neighborly. Try to be neighborly.
Yeah.
Ask. You don't know exactly what's going on in your own neighbor's backyard, and you might be able to help them. They may be in a situation that they couldn't do it, and you just want to call us, and we find out it could have been easily resolved with just a simple conversation, go knock on the door.
Which builds that community. I don't know,
my community. So
my
be peoply.
My peoply heart, right? That's what I'm saying. My peoply heart is if we could, we have these enforcement's in place in case they are needed, but wouldn't it be beautiful if we didn't need them, if
Just
we could
knock
work
on
together?
the door to tell somebody, hey, bring your trash can in. It's one of those things where it could fall into the road. It can injure a cyclist. Don't leave it out there.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah,
Don't leave it
give
out
the
there.
why.
Right.
Mm-hmm. I appreciate that. Jarrington, I've got one more question about we've talked about all that you do, but I want to talk a little bit about what you don't do, and then we'll wrap up.
Okay.
Noise, parties, that kind of stuff. That is not you, right? When we talk about public nuisance, that's not your area. Is that accurate?
Not during public nuisance.
Okay. So if somebody, and I'm looking at the notes that we talked about beforehand. So large gatherings, gang-related activity, noise complaints. That wouldn't go through you.
Oh, you need to call the sheriff's office for that first.
Call the sheriff's office or the health department.
Yes.
And we'll put those notes we'll put those contact information in the show notes
Absolutely.
too. I think it is interesting, the kind of, at some point, somebody way smarter than any of us sat in a room and was like, he will do this and she will do that. And this goes,
Right.
but only between the hours of this, but not that. And
Right.
I know it can be confusing to our residents. So thank you
Right.
for that clarification.
Absolutely.
Jarrington, if there's one thing that you want people to remember, take away, do, change, fix, after hearing you talk today, what's the thing that you wish you could get? Like you'd reference social media. If I could give you the biggest platform of followers, what would your number one post be? What would you tell people?
I would say be neighborly.
Be neighborly.
Be friendly. Get to know each other. The communities don't get to know each other like they used to. So reach out, and maybe an elderly person that can't handle themselves in the next house, or anything could occur, and you just wanted to call us before you even make an attempt to try to see if you can help them out if necessary. And then we're here to support you. We're here to enforce the code when needed. But we prefer that you just be neighborly.
Step one, be neighborly.
one.
I feel like that should be on all of our
Yes.
processes. Like step one, be
Step
neighborly.
one, be neighborly.
Step two, call us. But step one, be neighborly.
Exactly.
Jarrington Bazemore, our inspection supervisor, thank you so much for being here today.
Appreciate you so much.
Liz Theobalds, our deputy county attorney. What's one thing you want people to walk away with from this?
I would actually echo exactly what it is that Jarrington said. Be neighborly. Reach out to people. There are a lot of, and I'll say that there are a lot of people who are new to Charles County who don't necessarily have seen things that have gone on just as a matter of routine. So just reach out to them. It's a way to get to know somebody new next to you. And a lot of times they just don't know and may need just a little bit of help.
Love it. Thank you so much. And I will just throw out there as a reminder, if anybody wants more information about this or how they can be more neighborly or how they can learn more from Jarrington, they can always do our Citizens Academy program. So.
There you go. There you go.
Thank you both so much for being here. And thank you so much for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed this episode of Cracking the Code. You can always go back to past episodes. And of course, there will be more coming your way. In the meantime, Charles County, take care, stay safe, stay engaged, and be neighborly. Thanks so much.
Thanks for listening. If you like this podcast and want to hear more, search Charles County Government on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast. And be sure to like and subscribe. We're also available on YouTube. Search Charles County Commissioners. And stay connected for all county news, information, and programs by visiting www.charlescountymd.gov/stay connected.